My name is David Madison, the 11th of March 2020. I was a Methodist minister for 9 years. I have a graduate degree in theology and a PhD in biblical studies. But I left all that behind because the weight of evidence against Christianity is overwhelming. Beyond any reasonable doubt, Christianity has been falsified. In my book, I describe 10 of the tough problems that cancel the faith. In this series of videos, Christianity, 10 Knockout Punches, I offer a quick tour of them all. This is episode 4. Belief in God might be sustainable if folks could just settle for one simple affirmation: God is. However, theologians and laity alike, from ages long ago to the present, have never been satisfied with God is. They have decided, without providing any evidence, that God has multiple traits. God is, for example, all-powerful, loving, knows everything, is slow to anger, has a plan for everyone, picked out a promised land, had a son. The list goes on forever. And the contradictions and the enormous improbabilities pile on. Unfortunately, there has never been a supreme religious council to say, "Stop, what a mess." And this mess is the fourth knockout punch. Far too much has been claimed about God. Making up things has gone unchecked, with the result that theism is incoherent to the point of being absurd. Just consider 2 verses, for example, in Genesis 15. Quote, Then the Lord said to Abram, Know this for certain, that your offspring shall be aliens in a land that is not theirs, and shall be slaves there. They shall be oppressed for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterwards they shall come out with great possessions. Big deal. There were many other gods around at the time for Abraham to choose from. Why would he opt for a God who promised 400 years of slavery for his descendants? Why wasn't that a deal breaker? Why isn't such incoherence a deal breaker for theism now? God is good, is able to call the shots, but how shall we put it? He sits on his hands for 400 years of slavery? Or as Christopher Hitchens once observed, heaven watched with folded arms. Those 400 years of slavery are just one example of incoherence. The loving God also allowed the Black Plague in the 14th century that killed 1/4 of the population between India and England. Horrible deaths. He also allowed the 2 world wars of the 20th century, 90 million killed, and the flu pandemic of 1918, 50 million died, and of course, the Holocaust. We hear endless theobabble about free will, but a competent, loving God in control of events, considered capable at least of influencing events, isn't prayer supposed to work? That God is nowhere in sight. The theology is incoherent. The 23rd Psalm is pious nonsense, which anyone should be able to detect. Many of the faithful who believe that the Lord is their shepherd are hungry and desperate, disproving, I shall not want. How could it possibly be true that Christians who have lived in war zones, think 2 world wars, fear no evil as they walk through the valley of the shadow of death because the Lord is with them? Nonsense. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life is not the way the world works for anyone, believers and non-believers alike. Nature abhors a vacuum, as does theology. Thousands of guesses about God have been added to the mix, which is why Christians fight so much. This theological mess, which Christians can't clean up, is knockout punch number 4. There are 6 more to come. But do we really need any more?